Hello, welcome back to my channel, Antoinette here. So let's take a look at my January reflections and how my tarot journal is doing. First things you might notice is my lettering is a bit scuffed. It's kind of where I have a bulldog clip that I was using to find my pages for January. It's been scuffing that, so I will repaint it and put it back on. But that's just one thing that I noticed drawing on this kind of glossy journal paper. The pen that I used clearly wasn't man enough for the job, but it does what it does. It's okay. So I have the two journals here. I have the one that I expand on my daily card of the day, and I have my spreads and quick look card pulls for the day record in there. So it's just the two that I'm keeping for this now. Somebody asked me to just update them how I'm doing with my moon diary. So this one is just as I said. So I pull my card of the day, record it in here with a keyword of to how I'm feeling. And that's how I collect and expand on my keywords. And then this one, the keyword that I write in my tarot journal and the card gets transferred into here. And sometimes I'll put the keyword across. And then I will use the book that comes with this tarot to pull out some extra words if I feel I need the guidance for advice, or I'll write a bit more about how I'm feeling about the card. And if I know I have a particular thing happening on that day, am I feeling this card linking into that situation or feeding into that situation? And then again, I will pull my own kind of information and put down here. For instance, on Tuesday the 4th, I've got a new work colleague joining team today, and how the Ace of Cups might link into that. So that was just interesting. So something for me to reflect on basically. And that's how I am using this. And I use one deck for the month for my daily card pulls. You can see quite clearly it's written at the top, Barbara Walker. And for the best part, I think I have filled it in on a daily basis, because I pull a card every morning before I eat breakfast. So it's a ritual habit to me. However, writing into this diary isn't so much of a ritual habit. It's not something that I must do. It's not set in stone. So if I choose to just put my keyword into this one, I might just transfer the card here with a keyword and not write anything else. And that's perfectly okay. Then in the backs we have new moon and full moon stuff here. So just kind of intentions. I did my 12 days of Yule intentions as a separate ritual, and this was just reminding me about how I'm setting the final ritual wish that I put out and what I'm doing with it. And then with the full moon that was coming, learning to work with feelings, meditations, all that sort of thing, bringing in strong feelings of love and protection, and replacing all those other negative feelings and vibes that were going on. So that was just my intentions. And then in my magical notes page, because I use this also for that sort of thing, like my magical desires or wishes or workings, I had a wreath that I made, and I dismantled the wreath. And here I've got the items that were in it. So we had pine needles, holly leaves, eucalyptus, some Norway spruce, some fern or conifer, depending on what you call it, and we had some pine cones in there. And I took some of those and put them into jars because they were dried out, because they've been hanging for a month now. And they were neatly dried out, so I was able to turn them into dry herbs to keep on my spice rack. And then I just put what I link those to. So that was just something really nice to do. So that was updating my kind of herbs and things, so I could use them for creating. So here we can see I have an oil burning, and then I sprinkle herbs into that for to give off the smells and incense rather than incense sticks all the time. And I've also listed some oils that I wish to get into my apothecary. So I want some lemon, some musk, because in this diary they have a magical moon oil recipe, and I didn't have lemon or musk, so I've written them down as something that I might actually like to gain into my collection. That's how this one's working. Of course, we are now into February, which is the main month of Aquarius. Sage is our herb to work with, and you can see I've started doing my dailies there. And you can see we also had nice new moon to work with for in bulk. So that's the moon diary update and where we're at. Now my tarot journal for this year, 2022. What am I wanting to cultivate? My word of the year is transformative, and here I've just got other words that I link to the word transformative to remind me, and other ways I can use it. This was the card pull for something that I was trying to manifest back in October, and I'm continuing to bring forth with me. My card of the year is the Star, because that's the one I pulled, so I don't do it through numerological maths. I select one, it's as simple as that. And then words that I link to the word star. And it does sort of, if you think about it, star does sort of link in with being transformative, you know, being inspiring, looking for inspiration, enlightenment, knowledge, teachings, shining bright wisdoms, all that kind of thing. So they do sort of link quite well, which is nice. So what I've done is I've drawn in my grid for the month, and it's the same grid every month. Mine starts on Monday. This just indicates basically where it didn't need to be part of my grid. So here we go, we start on the 1st. It makes it to the 30th there, and then I put the 31st back up the top, rather than trying to squash it in on the bottom or having, you know, another odd row and limiting my size of my squares, because I quite like these large squares because I can put a bit more, or I can write a bit bigger and actually read it. My monthly cards are from my calendar spreads that I did end of May, beginning of June for a 12-month cycle, my calendar spread from my birthday basically. And instead of forgetting about them and leaving them in the back of a book or remembering to occasionally glance back, I am actually putting them into the journal as something to think about, to consider, to work with, and also just to see for my own thing, did these kind of come about? So January being King of Air and rules, laws, negotiation. What have we got here? Time to gather facts, to be able to distinguish the problems and see a clear solution. Pause, take time to think for a moment. And then courage was the card that went with it. You are a warrior of light. Don't be limited by beliefs of others. Allow your own truths and thoughts to be spoken with integrity. Now, as it turns out, I'm in a new job. And so this whole King of Air being on my 3-month sort of review came in quite handy, because I needed to reflect and work out what wasn't working for me. How can I make it work better? Or what help do I need to make it work better? What was I missing? So that prompt is a really good one. And obviously courage to be able to say that, because when we're in new jobs, we don't often want to upset anyone or rock the boat or admit that we can't do something. So it's kind of some humility there as well. But that's what we did. And as you can see, it's just other than that, washi stickers in here. My working decks, Barbara Walker, The Ancestral Paths Tarot by Cuccia-Watts, and then my study deck being the Thoth deck, which I did mention in my tarot journal evolution. So these pages you have seen sort of, if you've watched that set of videos, part 1 and 2. My week ahead spread is now looking like this. So I've made more space across the page because this is an A5 book. So here we have basically an A4 page laid portrait. So my week ahead, 3 cards: energy, embrace, avoid. A little bit of text there for what I'm feeling about those, and that could be either as the week moves forwards or straight away, depending on when I get my hit for what I think about those. And I do like to write out each card individually as well when I do this, just as part of my process. And then on Friday, instead of doing a weekly reflection, I'm just pulling a card for here, the lesson that I missed in the week. What did I miss? And we had 6 of Wands, or staves as it would be in the book that I was using. And I've written about it, and then I kind of got like a message afterwards just telling me to stay on track. When you stall, remember to breathe, focus, and start again. At the end of the day, you're only human. Don't we all need to hear that sometimes? The 2020 tarotselfblog.com had a communing with your deity spread, which I threw into here and decided to give a go. So here's the questions. It's 11 cards spread. That's the layout there. And I've written my cards and my keywords that kind of prompted me with this. Here's a picture of what I've done. And I did use a different deck for anyone that's spotting that. That's the Deviant Moon Paradoxical Tarot, is what I chose to use for this. And I also threw some Witch's Oracle from the Samhain edition, and Oracle of Black Enchantment card in there as well. And they were my card 1. And card 1, embodiment of magic, is what I decided this meant here, because the question was a card to represent the deity, the spirit, whoever it is that you're talking to in this particular spread. So whatever you want to replace the word deity with, that's who I was talking to. And I just thought it was really cool that I got potions and spells, ritual and altar, basically all embodiment of magic. And then here was just my reflection on that whole spread, rather than writing lots of sentences about each card. That was my snapshot from this spread. We have the New Moon in Capricorn spread from Ethony.com. And as you can see, this was pre-drawn in. Ancestral Tarot is the one that I've used. So this one is the one that I've used for most of the spreads. And then, as I said, Barbara Walker was my daily card pull. So although the stickers don't match because I have stickers, that was the cards that I was using. It's just these are the, standard, everyone knows them, easy to purchase on Etsy. And so I pre-drew it in, drew my boxes for where I was going to put my cards and the layout, and then came back and did that one to fill in. And then we have the guidance from the goddess, pulled from a Facebook group, although I thought it was Benable Wen on YouTube, but I think it's actually a Facebook group. We have a New Year's spread there, something old, something new. The cards, what I got for them, and you can see what cards I got for each question. And then my kind of summary of what's going on. I have a spread here for the goddess Pele, and as you can see, I've decorated it with lots of greenery because that's some of her colours, and written about what I got for each card, just making the page look pretty. I think this is perhaps more conducive to me than other styles of how I've journaled in the past. I have a Self-Care Sunday spread, and again I've drawn some greenery onto the page, more because it was already over here, so I've drawn it onto the page here just to keep it going. And this was a very simple spread, so I just did today, be mindful of, and embrace. Those were my prompts for the day, and then written about my cards. Then we have my second week ahead spread in January. My week aheads look the same-ish, colour coordinated, so I can see them when I go through my book. And again, here we have the energy, embrace, avoid, and my lesson for the week, for what I learned, and then my reflection at the end of the week, and my reflection during the week about the cards. Working with Elaine at Tarot and Tea. She's doing the Ancestral Tarot book and working her way through that. So she's done a few discussions on the spreads, and I have joined her, or joined in rather, doing some. So these are some of the spreads that she's shared, and these are in here. So I have drawn them in, put my cards down, and then what I'm thinking. This is one about patterns. And we have this one here, which is meant to be a question mark. So communicating with your chosen ancestor or guide, if your ancestor happens to be a guide. And then this is about learning how to work with those. From my Moon Cycles journal, new journal, which I won't be showing. I've shown a flip through of it in January, but that's it. In there was a spread here, which was an inquire within spread. So we've popped that one in. And because that journal's kind of reds, pinks, mauves, I've done the colours in the same colour coordination. My ancestors seems to be turquoise and black, so there is like a colour coordination theme going through. My week aheads are all matching, and here we have the third week of January, energy embrace, and this time I've chosen to avoid. What to avoid? What did we do the week before? I'm sure that card's different. Oh no, we're still avoiding. Don't do this. And then the overall lesson of the week. We have the Mercury in retrograde spread there, 5-card spread. And for this one I did use a standard RWS deck actually, because the questions weren't so easy for me to fathom, and for some reason I needed to come back to that deck with those images to help me answer the questions better. The Ancestral Tarot didn't sort of work for me, and that might just be because I don't understand the full story in that deck yet. But I had to come back to that deck for this one. And then we had the full moon in Cancer spread. So you can see I've gone for some pinks and things because Cancer being emotions and nurturing and all that sort of stuff. So I've turned my page pink. There was a midwinter solstice spread that was in the Llewellyn's Yule Sabbaths Essentials book, and somebody reminded me of that on my channel, so I chose to go back and have a look at it. And we have, so it's four cards really, but one is a signifier. So you pull your signifier, and that is imagining yourself in a winter's cave. That's your signifier card. Then you have 2, which is your contemplation. So what are you thinking about and how is it affecting you? 3 is your celebration or action. So how will you move forwards after this past year? So hence the reason it kind of goes for the new year. And 4, realization, which is where with the sun will you find, or where will the sun find success for you moving forwards? So I've called it realization basically. I don't think those words were the words in the book. I just think they were the written prompts, and I chose to give them keywords. Then we have one from BohoTarot. How can I attune to a more healthy energy this year? 3 card spread, so self-check-in. And that's how I've done my 3 cards. So you can see I hope you can see it's looking a bit neater. And then we have my final spread for the month. Still colour coordinated, but I started to bring in some green. In fact, I was already itching. I'd moved on, I think, at this point to setting up February, which is really weird. I don't normally do it this quick. I normally just do it a week in advance. But yeah, so we have these. These are my February pages, some of my February pages, which you'll see next month. But the new moon in Aquarius, because that's how keen I was, happened on the 31st of January. So here's my new moon in Aquarius spread, again from Ethony.com. But this should have been here, but it just wasn't because I'd already done many pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pages into February. I decided to put that one. And I'm okay with that, perfectly okay with that. Because what I had said I was going to do is I've just started prepping pages with spreads that intrigue me. So if I see a spread that intrigues me, I'm just throwing it in here. And these all intrigued me basically around about the same time. And I fancy some colour in my life. As you can see, the theme changes for February. That is my 2022 tarot journal. So the decks that we're working with, we have the yellow box of the antiqued RWS, which I used for a couple of those difficult spreads where I was really struggling to answer the questions, and for some reason this deck just made it easier to read. It was because I guess it's the study deck that we all learn with, so we come back home sometimes to the deck that, I don't really call that deck home, but you know, we have to come back to the deck that makes things simple. Then we have our Ancestral tarot spread, which comes with the little white book that I've turned into a pretty book with the extra cards by sticking them onto it and using that as my guide as I went through the book. But this doesn't tell you the story of the cards. So if you want to know the story of the cards, you'll need to go to Amber at Lavender Moon. Let's get it right this time. And she and Julie went through, there's a whole series of about 5 or 6 videos where they went through, and Julie very kindly went through the book that she wrote to go with these. And kind of explained the stories of the suits as she went through. And that sort of makes a difference to the story and understanding the card better. And what I was struggling with just by doing it with this book, I was struggling to understand some of the cards. Although there is some write-up in there, I don't know, it just wasn't, yeah. I need a bit more time probably with this one. So there we go, that's my spreads deck. And then my everyday deck was this one with these little cards. And I did try to use the keywords as I was working with it this time. I was trying to be mindful of the keywords that come on the cards, adding them to my daily writing and seeing what happened with it and taking those and using, that's why I was using the kind of guidebook to delve a bit deeper into these keywords if they didn't feel quite right. So, you know, Ace of Wands, power. It's not my go-to word for Ace of Wands. So this was more about trying to work with the words. They don't always work for me. That is something I did discover. These words didn't always work for me, or the way that I read tarot, I suppose. But it's interesting to use. It's a bit like having sometimes a oracle deck that you pull and it just, the keyword has no meaning to you whatsoever. But that's okay. So this is the Barbara Walker, which I will be on Tarotstache's channel, I think, on the 28th of January, doing a little chat about this deck with Amy from Mystic Rose Tarot as well. So do look out for that on the 28th. I think it's about 7 p.m. or 6:30 p.m. UK time. The Thoth Tarot, where are we at with this? So my study deck, in my form of study deck, my getting to know a deck, and my study book that goes with it. And here is my journal that I'm using because I couldn't think of anything else to use this for. Let me just find the page. Help. Oh, probably there. Okay. So I have a book of questions, and I'm just transferring the questions, 365 questions, into this book slowly, if I need all 365 questions, of course. And then pulling a card to answer the question, because it's a random question rather than a set structured format of learning. And then that's just me learning how these cards answer everyday questions, and giving myself, a good bit of space to write on, and sometimes more than a good bit of space to write on, depending on how deep I think the question is, because some of these I pre-wrote in. And if I thought it was going to be a deep question, I would leave like a double section, because the gaps on this diary for writing on are nice and big. So that's why I decided that this might be a good place to do this, rather than trying to squash it all into a little diary with smaller spaces, and they're only about that size. So you just get like an extra 2 sentences or so, which makes a difference when you're studying a deck and you're learning about it. I'm using my key. Although, interestingly, I failed to write down what card I'm talking about there. That's really funny. But yeah, you can see I have my key in here. I'm just drawing my cards in as I normally would. Nice big sword, wands, cups, queens, and writing on from there. So that is the study deck, but you don't need to see this every month. That'll just go on through. And as I say, I don't do it daily, I do it as and when. So the fact that this is numbered really is insignificant to me. It doesn't matter at all. I'm not going to be upset that I'm only on 17th of January in here. That's neither here nor there. It's more about the questions I'm using to answer the deck. And just to update everyone, last year I had the Celtic Moon Diary, which was my content planner. And this year I have the Egyptian Moon Diary, which is my content planner, both from the Flickering Cauldron, and which is the same place that I get this one from. So this is my old one. This is my new one. What do you do with them? They have got so much information in these. Honestly, you don't throw them away. That's what you do with them. You keep them. So if you can see, there's a difference in thickness because I've removed everything from here that I don't need. And this is all the information that I'm left with in the book for using. So these come as diaries. As you see, they come with space to write, plan your moon phases, tells you all about what's going on in the moons. That's in both of them, my moon diary and this one. You get pages of information in these as well, and because this one's about Egypt, we've got lots of stuff in here about Egypt and Egyptian gods and how they work through the calendar. And it's just like a little, once you're done, it's like a book to some Egyptian goddesses, gods, and a little bit of tradition and law. It's not written in stone, get it? So the Celtic moon obviously was more based on Ogham runes and things. So what I've done, I've been through, I pulled some stuff out, and I've also cut out, look, I've got some pictures here from some of the art that was in this book, because they're gorgeous, and I can use these scrapbooking for other things. So they're there, and I've just stuck them in. I've kept that front cover page for a second, so I can then look back and see when the new moons and full moons were. I don't know if it's going to be important to me or not. I might pull it out over time. And then we go into like stuff about Celtic paganism. Some of the gods and goddesses. We have the alphabet there. And basically what I've done is I've pulled out all the diary pages that I've written on. I've kept notes pages where I can, where it talks about the month and the rune and everything else that goes with it and how the month works. I've left all this information in here because there's so much of it. And then, so this is a thick page. And what I've done is I've taken 2 pages and stuck over what was an old diary page. And I've kept the notes page there so I can write in this and use this as a notebook as well for my own learning, my own information. And this is how I've done it. I've done it again there, look, so you can see. I've stuck over the top half, which was diary with 2 pictures, kept the bottom piece of art, kept my notes page. Some of them I've actually just stuck the pages together. There I've stuck an entire page of art over an old page, but what a beautiful piece of art. Couldn't throw it away. I'm such a magpie, such a magpie. Here we go, so I've got some pages stuck together here, it feels like. No, that one. So I stuck that page together. So I've just literally stuck 2 pages together because there's nothing on the back of this page of use. And I decided that was on the other side of this page because they were just 2 diary pages. So I've just glued them together with some Pritt stick or stick glue or whatever you all call it. And I'm just left with the most incredible book of information on the months, the runes, kind of information about some of the Celtic stuff that goes on. Here we have 2 notes pages, so I've stuck another notes page that I found here onto a diary page because it had a diary page on the back of it, so that's 2 diary pages stuck together. So I've just pulled that out further up the book and stuck it there, so now I have 2 notes pages that I can work with. And there we have that page again. I've stuck a nice piece of art straight over it. And I think it's nice, the fact that I can now use this not only as a reference book, but a workbook as well. And if I want to add my own information and notes to this, I absolutely can, because there is pages in here where I can do that. So if you have one of these from last year and don't know what to do with it, I hope this inspires you to do a bit more with it. My understanding now, you need to go and check out the Flickering Cauldron on Etsy or on their website to see what their plans are for next year. But I understand this might be coming back for next year. Just see. Okay, so The Witch's Companion Volume 2 is on its way, end of the year, about September time possibly. The new Moon Diary is coming out soon for pre-order because they sold out so quickly. So we have an Egyptian Moon Diary for 2023. But I'm sure somebody said to me they were thinking of recreating this one for next year as well. So if you're interested in that, you might need to message them. This has got the same information. So because this one came out first, it hasn't got anything more. But if you're interested in the Moon Diary, pre-orders are starting in March to get that one for next year, because it's a very small company, so they don't hold masses of stock, so they kind of do a pre-order, run the print run, and then it's sort of sold out. Then if you haven't pre-ordered it, it's not something you can buy at any time in the year. So if you've really liked these and you missed out on them for this year, you can still get hold of the Egyptian Moon Diary. So go back and get yourself one of these. I recommend it because it's got the same moon phases, the same information. It's just this one's got stuff about Egypt and Egyptology and gods and goddesses in it and parts of Egypt. So, you know, it's really pretty. Whereas this one is a little bit more sort of magical with the fact that it works with herbs and stuff. But you can get this one still available from what I saw yesterday when I looked at their pages. So you can go back and get that one on Etsy, the Egyptian Moon Diary 2022. The Moon Diary 2023 gets pre-released pre-orders, in March or end of March this year, 2022. So get your name on that list, and then the diaries will start rolling out for 2023. So you know you've got one. It just gives you longer to get them and gives them longer to get their names and their print runs together for everyone. So that is those. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the week, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.